This week's episode is sponsored by
Rewarding career. I know my dad is looking down and very proud of us. We lost him many years ago, over 34 years ago, and he loved agriculture and was always involved with agriculture, and we're just continued that on. Our family is very close. I don't know if it's because of our Italian blood that we have in us, but you know, it was all about family, and we're probably one of the very few families that have worked together for, you know, this long, but it's been very rewarding.
Beef. It's delicious, it's plentiful, and it's at almost every grocery store that we go to. And if you love steak as much as this girl does, you're gonna love our tour today with Mike Rissica at Rio Beef Yard. So join me, your host, Michelle Martin, as we go on over to Cowtown. Cowboys are not very common these days. You don't see them like you did in the past, riding around along the road. And I see you have one here. Tell us what his role is.
Well, his name is Rolla. So his role is to be out here looking at cattle every day. Rolla's out here today. We have 4 cowboys total, and their job every day is to look after the cattle. And so they get here between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. They feed their horses, saddle up, and they all have different pens that they're in charge of. And so Rolla today is in charge of some of the cattle that actually, as we're seeing in the background, that have been on feed for a while. And all he's looking today is for cattle that might be sick or might have gotten hurt overnight, or you know, might be have a little stomach ache and maybe bloating a little bit. So his job is just to move get all the cattle up, look at every single calf, make sure that their health is good, and that they're performing like they should. Rolla has been with us probably for 25 years, and he trains the rest of the cowboys as they come and go, but he does an excellent job, and we're lucky to have him. They ride, each one of them has 2 horses that they ride each week, because you can imagine a horse, they're athletes, but they get worn out, you know,
Right.
doing this every day.
Get exhausted.
Exactly. And so the cowboys are here 7 days a week, checking cattle, you know, when it's cold, when it's hot, you know, 105 degrees and humidity's at
Or 117 like
exactly,
this summer.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it's cold, they're here, and they just check the cattle and for their well-being. So they're in a feed yard. You know, we have a feed side and a cattle side, and the cattle side is a very big part of make sure the cattle are doing well.
So are these cattle here, you said that they've been here for a while, would they be kind of considered like teenagers? And he's the father of all these teenagers, God bless him.
Right, no, that's exactly right. He gets to know each one of them, not by name, but recognizes each one of them. So he has so many cattle he rides through, but he pretty much, if he knows one day is maybe looking a little down, the next day he'll spot that calf again, and he may need to bring it up to the work area to give it some attention. But these cattle, like I said, these are probably here, have probably been here over 100 days, and they're pretty well lined out. And the only thing we're going to find in these cattle might be a bloat, or might have a some type of foot problem. But pretty much they're pretty well lined out, and they're eating well, and they're drinking every day. And as you can see, they look very good at this time in their life. And looking at this, we call this a ration, okay? And this is our what we call a finishing ration. We start with if you think about cattle, calves are out on grass, okay? So they really have never had much corn or molasses or any of the ingredients we're going to talk about in a minute. So when a calf gets here, we usually put hay down first, because they're used to eating grass and hay.
Kind of like a baby drinks milk first.
Exactly, exactly. And then what we'll do is we'll put feed over the hay. So the calf has to eat through the feed to get to the hay, right? So believe it or not, it only takes about a week, and the calves have learned, oh my gosh, this is so much better than the grass that we were eating. So it only takes a week, and then we take the hay away, and then they're on what we call a ration. And we have 3 different rations. We have what's called starter ration, a middle ration, and a finisher ration. This is the finisher ration. And with these rations, if you look at them closely, we're going to talk about some steam flake corn. We've got steam flake corn in there. If you look, we got some whole cottonseed, which has energy and has
protein. Has I was going to say a lot of protein, right?
Energy. And then we also have some silage, sorghum silage in there. Is this what this is? You can't see it, but it's real yellow. It's called DDGs, but it's distiller's grain. It's our protein source, has 22% protein. Has molasses in there, and it also has fat in there, about a 3% fat. And so it's like making a cake. We have a consulting nutritionist and a consulting veterinarian that come once a month. Our consulting nutritionist formulates our rations, makes them a complete balanced diet. Make sure it's got all the protein it needs, the energy, it's got all of its vitamins and minerals.
It's really in depth, and it's not just a simple process. It's, wow, I had no clue.
Yeah. In the morning and in the afternoon, we have a gentleman that's our that calls feed. He goes through, it's all on computer, it's all advanced now. It's just, it's crazy how advancement has come. And
technology.
He'll look at a bunk and he'll see how it looks in the morning, if it's clean or if it's got crumbles, or if he's got carrion feed, and he'll cut the cattle or add feed to the cattle. And so he knows each pen what they're doing every single day. And when a cold front's about to come in, cattle will tell you they actually start to load up today, and they'll start needing more feed because they're getting ready for a cold front. So the cattle actually will tell you what they want, what they're eating and what they want to eat. All we're trying to do is keep them between the lines and try to keep them gaining as fast as they can, keeping them, pushing them, but not overfeeding them. So it's really scientific when it comes every day.
Absolutely.
But our feed bunk guy does that and does a great job. But 7 days a week, we have to read these bunks and feed them exactly what they're capable of eating.
It's a full-time job, and it's really complex, and I think sometimes, we're just so used to going to the grocery store and picking out that meat, picking out that steak, and we don't think about how much formulation goes into their food and how much goes into their placement and everyone's role. So I'm excited to learn more. I find it so impressive that you have a mill here,
Right.
you know, to help assist in making the feed. How does it start? We get the corn. Where do you put the corn?
And those big red tanks are whole corn. So we get the whole corn, and then what we do, they're augered, and we add a little water to the corn to get it starting to get it to suck up water. And then what we do, it goes up, and there's another kind of a smaller, longer tube, cone shaped, and that is what we were talking about, where the corn goes in, and it has those spiders in there. And those spiders,
Not real spiders.
not real spiders, not real spiders.
Please, no.
But they're spiders that have a ring tube, and they inject steam. They've got little holes in there. There's 5 of them in that what we call steam chest. And so it takes about 45 minutes for the corn to get from the very top to the very bottom. And then it goes to 2 big heavy roller mills that actually roll the corn, and it becomes those steam flakes that we were looking at.
Like cornflakes.
Like cornflakes, exactly.
Like my cornflakes every morning.
Oh yeah, and that makes the product more digestible for the cattle, and they can eat less and gain better. So that's why that's our meal. A very, very big part of our plan out here is to continue to do our steam flake. This is what we call our sorghum silage. If you think about like a hay grazer or a real tall,
Smells good.
it smells really good. We usually cut it at about 70% moisture.
Okay.
And a big machine comes in and cuts it in a bunch of little bitty pieces like this, which is very digestible, as you can see. But you can take corn, a corn crop when it just becomes dented, and take the crop then, or you can take silage. And this is what we call our roughage. This takes place of hay, and a lot of times during the year it's hard to find hay. So we decided to go to a product that we can have farmers grow for us, and so we have this year round. It's high moisture. It does have some protein, but it's mainly just to kind of keep the animal's gut happy.
Right.
Because cattle are used to eating grass and hay, and so you can't just feed straight corn. So this kind of helps to keep the rumen happy, and also it helps to digest things better.
You said that it's 70% moisture, correct? What is, let's say that this was not being used for feed, what is the moisture that most?
Usually if you're going to try to bale it, it's got to get down there around 8 to 12%.
Oh, so quite.
So it's got to get way dry. But this is we put it in this what we call a pit, and we tractor and we pack it where it gets really, really tight, and try to take all the air off of it. And it takes 20 days for it to what we call ensile. And it changes that color from a real pretty green to this kind of off color, but now it's ensiled, and this product can stay in a pit 10, 15 years without degrading.
Wow.
So
10 to 15 years.
If you just left it alone.
Wow.
But we usually use the product within a year usually. But the product smells really good, and
It
the
does.
cattle really like it. It's very palatable, so the cattle love it.
It does smell good. I don't know, I'm strange though. I think cow manure smells good.
Well, we can go look at that too.
The feed has many components, 2 of which we've seen, the corn, and then we've seen the silage.
Right.
Now this warehouse has several components, starting with?
This product over here is whole cottonseed, and the whole cottonseed is a product that we get from the Valco, which is our oil mill. And this comes product that comes from making cotton. After they take the lint off, then we have this seed. And the thing about seed, it's really a complete feed, and we love it. And the cattle just very palatable, so they love it. But it has a little bit of roughage, but it has the outside, after they take the lint off, has what we call a cottonseed hull.
Which is over here,
which
right?
is more of a darker product, correct?
Okay.
And inside it has meal, and the meal is real high protein. In fact, when we get cottonseed meal, it has like 41% protein. And then it has some oil in there also. We were talking about oil. But it has oil. So all these products help cattle gain, and a very big part of what we feed out here.
So cotton serves so much more purpose than just making our clothes. It's actually,
yes.
You know, it feeds the animals that feed us.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, this product is cottonseed hulls. It's also a roughage that cattle love, very palatable, has zero nutrition value, but a very palatable that we use when we start cattle.
It stinks.
Yeah.
But yet I keep smelling it.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's kind of musty, isn't it?
A little musty. All right, let's go to the next station.
Oh,
that smells so good.
Oh, it smells great.
And you know, I wish they could bottle that smell up.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Oh, this smells like Chinese food.
Mm-hmm, right? This is DDGs. It's just a very powdery, very, 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 very powdery. This is our protein source. And after they make ethanol gas, this is a byproduct. One's called it's called distiller's grain. This is called dry distiller's grain, so we call it DDGs. But it's got 22% protein, very palatable also. But this comes directly from ethanol plants out of Kansas and Nebraska.
Okay. You know what it smells like?
What?
Soy sauce.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, sure does.
It does. It makes me want Chinese food.
Yeah.
Agriculture isn't just a job, it's a lifestyle. It's a passion. It's either part of who you are or it isn't. You pour your time, blood, and sweat into your land and livestock. Nobody understands that grit more than we do. If there comes a time when you need a helping hand, we stand ready. Local, loyal, and here for the long haul.
Internet is more than just uploads and downloads. It's about connecting people. VTX1 Companies is here for you, bringing communities closer together. VTX1 has connected customers for almost 70 years. Our internet service spans across South Texas to some of the most remote areas. Pasture wireless service is now available in Palmview, Alton, West Laco, and Farr. Call 1-800-446-2031 or visit vtx1.net to find out more.
This contraption we saw that's behind you is y'all were putting implants into the cattle.
Right.
Explain to me a little bit about why are we putting implants in them?
Well, maybe we need to start from the very beginning
Let's
as
do
we
it.
get these cattle in. And we buy cattle from different sources. And we here at Rio Beef buy them from Edinburgh, and we buy them from Rio Grande City. We buy some cattle out of Alice. We have people that will bring some cattle in from Edna, from Hallettsville, and from Beeville. Okay. And so we source our cattle a lot of different places. The cattle come in, and if you can imagine, they're like new kiddos going to school, right? So if
a little nervous.
Yeah, right. And if one's got a cold, all of a sudden everybody's got a cold, right?
Know that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we do when the cattle come in after they're weighed, and we process them. And when we say we process them, we give them, all their vitamins, their minerals. We will deworm them in case they have worms. Right. We will put an implant, which we'll talk about. And if they're very sick, we may use an antibiotic to make sure they get over their cold. Because the biggest problem if we have any cattle die in a feed yard, 85% of them are going to die from a pneumonia type of a disease. So what we make sure, and so what we got to make sure is that nothing's sick, and that if it is sick, that we treat it, and they get well very, very quick. An implant is something that helps them grow faster. It's natural, so it's nothing that we're not putting into them that's not natural, so the public doesn't have to be concerned about that. But it helps them to be more efficient when we feed them and as they grow. So, and also we put what we call a lot tag in their ear. And so the lot tag in their ear, that tag will stay with them the whole time they're here. We'll put them in a pen. They may change pen to pen, but the lot tag stays with them, and that group goes together all the way through.
So when we walk into a local grocery store, we pick up our hamburger meat, we pick up a steak. And I mean, I'm guilty of it as well, not really thinking about the complexity that it really takes to get that product into that store. Explain a little bit about the history of cattle, and then also tell me a little bit about how this beef yard got here.
Okay. Well, the cattle feeding business started probably in the late 50s and 60s. If you remember in Fort Worth stockyards, you ever been there, ranchers would take all their cattle and their goats and sheep in a central location, and packers had packing plants all around, and they would buy those cattle there and sheep and everything. And that was kind of the hub of where everything was traded years ago. Believe it or not, cotton gins came along, and the cotton gins had a lot of this cotton trash out there. Not any product that we've seen today, but cotton trash. And they couldn't find how to get rid of that. So that's where the cattle feeding started. They brought cattle in to eat behind the cotton gins to eat the old cotton trash. Well, as they started feeding them, they started getting a little smart, and they said, you know something? What if we put a little corn in there, or a little Milo, or something to help them wheat to grain faster? And so they did. And so what happened, that was the onset of the cattle feed yards. So in the 50s and 60s, instead of everybody taking their cattle to Fort Worth to market, all of a sudden feed yards were buying cattle from people, and the feed yard started mainly up in the Panhandle area, because that's where the grain was. The cattle feeding industry, centered around Hereford, Amarillo area, and now it's slowly moving into Kansas and Nebraska. They've always been big cattle feeding areas, farmer feeders, but because of the corn, the distiller's grain, they got the commodities there,
right.
And so a lot of the cattle are moving north.
It goes to stand, I almost say this in almost every episode that we film, is that when it comes to agriculture, we really rely on our family, and whether we have family still living or not, we all are one family,
That's
everyone
right.
who's involved in ag. And it's not an 8 to 5 job. It's 7 days a week, 365
Exactly.
days a year, because we're here to feed America. So while being strenuous, it's rewarding at the same time. So God bless you for your hard work.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a rewarding career, and I know my dad is looking down and very proud of us. We lost him many years ago, over 34 years ago, and he loved agriculture and was always involved with agriculture, and we're just continued that on. But our family is very close. I don't know if it's because of our Italian blood that we have in us, but it was all about family, and we're probably one of the very few families that have worked together for this long, but it's been very rewarding.
Eat more beef is the saying most cattle raisers live by. Sunday barbecues, catering events, and your town steakhouse wouldn't be the same without the option to have it bloody or burnt to a crisp. And the best cooked steak or burger is the way that you enjoy it most. So next time that you're in the grocery store or your local meat market, remember the passion and dedication that it takes to get these beef products from the pasture to the table. Mike, thank you again for taking me and the team out here. It has been so interesting to see how complex it is. Most people are so they're just used to going to the store and grabbing that thing right off the rail, you know? And in today's day in society, I try to emphasize that ag has almost been forgotten. We take it for granted. And it takes a lot of moving parts, as we can see, just to get that simple package of ground beef or that ribeye, or if you're really hungry, that tomahawk steak. But I really do appreciate you taking us out and showing us everything.
Well, it was our pleasure, you coming out and showing what we do, and like we were talking about, from pasture to plate, making sure that we produce a wholesome product for the public. And I want to say thank you, Michelle, for what you do in this series of things, teaching people about agriculture and how important it is. So
Thank you.
Without you, the normal person doesn't know when they go to the grocery store. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate what you've done for the beef industry especially, and we want everybody to eat more beef. And now you're an ambassador that can go out there and say that we've got.
Does that mean I can't go to Chick-fil-A anymore?
No Chick-fil-A.
Well, thanks again for having us, and remember to thank a farmer, thank a rancher, and we'll see you next time. God bless. God bless, Mike. We'll see you.
Yes, okay.
This week's episode is sponsored by